On today's episode of the Evangelism Podcast, I interview Evangelist Tim Hall, who is from Australia. Brother Tim shares how he got started as an evangelist, and he talks about the challenges he faced along the way. He really emphasizes the importance of trusting God for finances and not waiting until you have all the money in your pocket to book a crusade. He also talks about his recent evangelism in the Solomon Islands and the amazing things that God did there. You're going to love this conversation with Evangelist Tim Hall.
Jesus said, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel.
Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved."
Welcome to the Evangelism Podcast with Dr. Daniel King, where Daniel interviews full-time evangelists, pastors, missionaries, and normal everyday Christians to discover how they share their faith, their powerful testimonies, and amazing stories that will inspire you to reach people with the good news. And now, here's your host, missionary and evangelist, Daniel King.
Welcome to the Evangelism Podcast. I'm Daniel King. I'm excited about telling people about Jesus. Today I'm with a very special friend, Tim Hall, great evangelist from Australia. So,
great to be on your podcast, Daniel.
So, Brother Tim, tell us, how did you get started as an evangelist?
Right from the word go, I saw the power of God, and I met a guy that was, I don't know how he was going. He was full on for God. He gave me some books on prayer and fasting by a guy called Franklin Hall. And I read about fireballs coming into rooms and lightning flashing out of these things and all these manifestations. And I went to a couple of meetings and I saw demons coming out and bodies going everywhere. And I was an artist, see? I was a bit of a crazy artist and a mad drinker. And I thought, I want to be in this stuff. Some people get nervous to have manifestations of God in their church. I just saw it and I went, oh wow, this is what I want. I want to see this stuff, and I want to carry this stuff. I want to be in the thick of it right from the word go. So I met this guy called Camel, and we started fasting 2 days a week. And he was into fasting and prayer, so we would fast 2 days a week, and on Saturday we'd pick up hitchhikers. That's how I started, picking up hitchhikers. We picked up weirdos. We picked up strange people, and probably risky, but every Saturday picking up hitchhikers. That's how it started. And I was a high school teacher, and I just wanted God. And so I'd go down the river walk along the river, and I'd fast 2-3 days a week, and most weeks 2 or 3 days, and I'd walk down the river every night for 4 or 5 hours, walk up and down the river, crying out to God. Didn't know what I'd have demons attack me, and I'd tell them where to get off in old language, and I didn't really know quite how to deal with them, so I used language that I'd used really before I was slowly being sanctified, and I'd walk around and there's demonic powers and I'm fighting through stuff, and life just was this crazy adventure. And then all these kids at school started getting saved, and then I went to these fasts seeking God, and anyway, I was really saying, God, I want to go to Bible college, but the Lord kept saying, no, I want you here. I want you to do something. So I've been seeking God really diligently, and I was at my parents' place, and I saw this half house, and it had archways, 3 archways. It had hangers for clothes down the side, and I saw it exactly. And I was sitting in the chair looking, I'm going, what is this? It was my first ever vision. And the Lord said, that's your house. I was living in that in a week, 17 Sturt Street.
Wow.
And so God said, get these people together. I want you to start having meetings in the house. And so I said, well, what'll I do? He said, just go and find people. I'll bring people your way. So I was just witnessing and sharing, and we finished up with about a dozen people. And I got them in for a meeting. And we had this meeting in the house, And at the end of it, I said, look, maybe 14 people, something like that. I said, stand up. I think God wants to do something. And the Lord said, ask me to come. I said, Lord Jesus, would you come in the house? With that, the wind of God hit everybody. The whole lot got poleaxed. The bloke knocked on the door, what's happening in the house? And came in, and down he went under the power of God. And the next couple of weeks, I think 13 members of his family got saved. And the next thing, we got a church going, packing the lounge room out. I didn't know what I was preaching. I'd open up the Bible, I'd go and fast and pray and go down the river and cry out to God for something. People would all fall over. We'd preach heresy, then they'd all fall over. And that was the start. And that went on for a while, and then I'd go up to the church in Andrew Evans' church up in at the weekend. I'd take carloads. We'd take 5, 6 carloads. We'd have meetings in the house Friday night, and then we'd go with this parade of cars, 50 k's to Adelaide, and 80 k's up there, 50 miles, whatever it is. And so we do that, and then a guy wanted to come and join me. Rang me up. He said, would you? I'd love to come and help you there. I've just come out of Bible college. I said, you come and run it. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. He said, no, you run it. So he came. He needed a house. It's a long story, but we needed it on a Saturday. And a lady moved out of this property across the road that had big sheds in it. And they moved in. She moved out, and they moved in. And it was a place where Aboriginal ministry had happened. And at any rate, we did up all the sheds there and started a church. So I'm only saved 18 months, something like that.
Already pastoring.
Pastoring, but not knowing what I was doing.
At what point did you figure out what you were doing? Have you figured it out yet, or are you still?
I'm still a bit the same. And I'm still sort of chasing my tail a bit at 75. But it went really well, and then I got invited to go to a church as a outreach pastor, and that went all right for a while, and then it just didn't work out, and I went tiling roofs and pulled out of everything, got out of teaching and just tiling roofs. And Andrew Evans came to me at the biggest Pentecostal church in Australia, and he said, Tim, that's Russell Evans' father. He said, Tim, would you consider being my youth pastor? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And the Lord said, don't do it until you've been away with me. So I took a bus and up to a place called Lee Creek, right up in the outback. Got in a light plane. I got them to drop me off, and I stayed out in the bush up in the mountains for 20 odd days, just on my own out there seeking God, and just really going after the things of God. And came back. First meeting, God just poured his spirit out, and kids were screaming, and deliverance, and everywhere you walk, people were just going under the power. And the youth group exploded in 12 months from 70 to maybe 300 or 400, which was a huge youth group then. And that took off, and we did that for a few years, and then I went back to my hometown. God spoke to me to go back to my hometown, and started meetings there. First meeting, 160 in the church, and from there, just a lot of fasting and prayer. And I wanted to go on the road as an evangelist, and this church kept inviting me, and I said, no, I'm an evangelist. I don't really want to pastor. And God said, have you sought me about this? I said, no. And I went up to the mountains, fasted and prayed for a couple of weeks. And while I was up there, God said, I want you to take that church. That thing went berserk in 18 months from 70 to 700. And doors just started opening now, and they've already been opening to go and preach everywhere. And now we were all over preaching, and then it was opening up into New Guinea, and healing began to really flow. And once the miracles were happening, and we started to see really significant miracles, And in many ways, I feel like it was a little early for me to quite cope with. But it's almost like you seek the gifts before you really got the character to handle it. And when the doors are open, you start praying for the sick and seeing miracles, and up into New Guinea, and things went off there, and it grew from there, and it's just kept growing, and then you're daring and you're growing and you're believing and fasting and praying. You still seek the Lord the same as you did. You still want the power of God. You try and stay as fresh as you can, and you just watch it grow, and I think your faith grows, and your daring grows to believe, and your capacity to believe for money just keeps growing. And where you could hardly scratch yourself to put a crusade together, now you start to have the confidence to do big crusades and bigger, and take big stadiums and book them before you got the money.
Now, how many crusades have you done in Papua New Guinea now?
Minimum 50.
Wow.
We've had the National Stadium 7 times. We've had some great crowds up there. Crowds 80,000, 60,000, 50 here. Some of the regions 50 plus thousand. Seen the dead raised up there. Seen every miracle up there. And that's been my happy hunting ground. But the whole South Pacific has been the passion. All the islands, there's just something about the South Pacific. The first place I ever did a crusade was Guadalcanal in the Solomons, and we've just been back there. Guadalcanal was really a great place, and we went in there, started with 1,000, 2,000 people, and after 5 days the stadium was just jammed to the doors, the power of God, cripples getting healed, people getting off beds, sticks and stuff that you dreamed about. So it's been progressive. It's had its ups and downs. I've been through deep valleys. The mountains have been wonderful. The valleys have been pretty awful. But you keep growing. You just grow into it, I think, and many highlights.
So I'm still a young evangelist in comparison to you. What advice would you give to younger evangelists?
Stay very hungry in the Spirit. If you want to go long term, keep your prayer life strong. Keep your word life strong. Stay in the word. Don't depend on yesterday's anointing. Don't run. I mean, we've all got key messages. You've got your best ones, I've got my best ones, and they work wherever you go. But keep building. Keep building the word. Keep feeding. Keep developing messages you've got. And keep in that place where you're staying in that place of intimacy with Him. Because it's very easy to get too busy and run a little bit on yesterday's manna, and then you get weary. And then the joy goes out of it. When you're weary and you're pushing and you're running on yesterday's manna, which you've all done at times, the joy goes out of it. When the joy goes out of it, you're better not in it. And so stay as fresh as you can, develop your prayer life, and I suggest that every evangelist should at least once a year go away into a place for a few weeks. Get away from everybody. I go up in the mountains, I've got places I go, and go out there in the mountains and wait on God and hunger for God, and don't seek the gifts, just seek Him and walk with Him. And I find more and more that when I get out there now, it's not about gifts or power or demonstration of the Spirit, it's about just love relationship. And I think if we can keep that love relationship sweet and strong and consistent, we can do this thing long term. And don't get carried away with yourself. Don't let your ego run ahead. Don't let success go to your head. Let success and failure, deal with them both the same. And with people, stay humble, walk humbly, keep a humble attitude. always treat everybody like they're more important than yourself. When you meet people, don't be the person wanting to, as an evangelist. Most evangelists try to, there's a lot of competition in evangelism. I think if we can avoid that and work together, which is something I love with what we're doing, walk humbly, preferring one another, not wanting to be the the kingpin of evangelism. I think we get that knocked out of us. We all want that at some stage. We all want to be the Reinhardt, or we all want to be at some stage, but I think just all of us working together, keeping a loving attitude and helping each other and staying close with the Lord, walking with Him, and also knowing when to take a break and guarding your family. When your wife starts to show signs of that she's had enough of everything that's going on, give her some time. And take time. Take weeks. I know it's hard because we've got to keep the finances rolling, we've got to keep everything. But trust God too for finances. Don't feel you've got to be out every weekend labouring and working to make money. Dare to believe God that money will come in from many sources and supernaturally. And that comes, be a giver, be a sower, and dare to believe that the financial thing that God will supply. God spoke to me at one stage about the little woman with the bowls of oil. And He said, you organise the bowls like stadiums, I'll bring the oil, the finance and the power. Don't wait till you've got the money to book the crusade. Book the crusade and watch God bring the money. And which is often...
It's a little scary sometimes, but faith building.
You've been there many times. When you know that you've got a week to find 75 grand or something like that, or more, and you're looking at your accounts, and you begin to say, Lord, it looks like you've got another opportunity to come at 5 to 12. And we're talking the same subject, we know, and you know what I'm talking about, but that financial thing, you'll learn to trust. And when it's not happening, don't get despondent, don't let yourself get down, just trust Him. His provision, if he's organising what we're doing, He'll provide. And just that, I think if ever I've at a point where I don't worry about the account. The last couple of years. Up until then, I think I was always a bit anxious. He kept us through the whole of the lockdowns in Melbourne, and I was able to finance other ministries right through that time. And I was amazed. I said, God, I don't know how we did that. And the last few years, God's provision has just gone to another level. But it grows, doesn't it? You watch it grow, and where you used to panic, get really nervous, beating your head against the wall, wondering how's this going to happen, you settle back, and then you go, Lord, you're unbelievable. And it's a rest. We've entered a rest, even though it's hectic. That's a long way around that question.
Some great wisdom there. You just returned from the Solomon Islands.
We did.
I saw some amazing pictures of what God did there. Tell me a little bit about what happened just a few days ago.
Yeah, the Solomons, I love the Solomons. For an American, Guadalcanal is so significant. It's so significant because it was a beachhead. In World War II, you had Rabaul, which was a magnificent naval base that the Japanese had set up. And they were aiming to set up a big airstrip. That would have given them control. They probably could have taken Australia with that, New Zealand, Australia. It's a very strategic area. Certainly China are looking at it very seriously, that region. And we had the door open to go back. And I feel like God's bringing me right back in circles of places I've been. So, had a friend in there, and we were setting it up before COVID. I was hoping it would be a bigger crusade. It wasn't massive. The biggest I've done there, it's probably, the stadium was full. We didn't even have room for an altar, the first one. Wow. This is my fourth there. I worked with a guy who set everything up, did a very, very good job. And I financed him to go in, set it up, get around the key people. And it was very anointed. We had a great team on the ground and tremendous miracles. A lot of deaf mutes. In fact, we were over on Gizo, which is the island where John F. Kennedy was. And it was a little bit like, sometimes deaf ears are hard. You've probably had nights where you're really taking authority to bust deaf ears. It was very simple. It was just one after another, deaf after deaf. And the miracles over on Gizo Island were just one after another. It was the easiest flow of miracles I've been in for a long time. And I thought, God, is this where it's going? There was no struggle. Everything we touched was getting healed. And so I guess over the course of the time we had on Gizo, which is a population of 10,000, I don't know how many it reached on the last night because I flew here, but I'd say it had to have been over half the island or more. And I would estimate that we probably had half the island come to Christ. So it's not a massive crusade, 5,000, that one. The first one was about 12 or 14. And we were probably seeing 3,000 or 4,000 a night getting saved. And tremendous healings. It was just, the South Pacific is beautiful. You haven't been down there yet, but it's just beautiful. The weather.
My wife lived in Papua New Guinea for a whole year as a missionary and loved it. Loved the people. They're beautiful people. And so I've had a great desire to come. And actually the other day we were talking and he said, Daniel, you got to come to the South Pacific. And so I'm praying that God will make that happen.
We need to do something. I'd like next year to take the, I had a talk with Daniel Calendar about, we talked the possibility, I don't know if that's going to eventuate or not, but I'm talking to maybe Daniel, maybe CFAN coming in. That would be great, and it'd be good to take some of the regions and get some of the guys from here. We just got to know it's ready, and we've got to do a bit more research. It's just opening up, and but I'd love to have you come in and some of the other guys that I've talked to.
Yeah, there's some great CFAN evangelists that have gone through the evangelism boot camp that are from Australia. My friend Andrew Scarborough is coming to the conference tomorrow.
Andrew contacted me tonight.
Yeah.
He is a wonderful guy. You know him?
Yeah, he was one of my students at CFAN.
Andrew. Andrew is...
And so I think we could put together a good team to do, bring in some good evangelists. And
Well, we'll have a think about it. We're going back and we're going to chew on a few things for next year. There's a lot happening, isn't there?
yeah.
There's a lot going on. Are you looking at Thailand?
Yeah, so we're here at this Everyone conference where we're talking about reaching everyone on earth with the gospel before 2033, the 2,000-year anniversary of the Great Commission being given by Jesus and the first day of Pentecost. And so our movement has adopted Thailand as the next country we want to target. And I've been in meetings all day today, just talking to different people that have influence there and have done things there. And I think there's great potential.
Did you see the stuff with that village with all the baptisms?
That made me cry. I mean, we saw a video of a village in Thailand that had over 1,200 baptisms of people that gave their life to Jesus.
Didn't they take 2 days or something to baptize them?
And that's a lot of baptism.
They just kept coming.
Yeah.
And that's a village, or can you imagine? When? I remember yesterday we talked. I think it was yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. And I felt God speak to me and say, "You don't have to work out how we're going to take this percentage of the population. Light the fire because fire's got its own mind. And and if you looked at those people being baptized, a fire just broke out there, and all it takes is, Australia, we have bushfires, and they can start real easy, but all of a sudden you've got a wall of fire, 100 feet high, on a 200-mile front, 200 miles, moving at 50 or 60 miles an hour, with fireballs going ahead of it, consuming everything, a devouring fire. And Zechariah 12, verse 6 says, in that day I will make the clans of praise, or the governors of Judah, like a shovel of white-hot coals cast into the dry sticks. And I feel as though the dry sticks are everywhere now, waiting for us to just go and light fires.
Amen.
And
well, the harvest is ripe.
It is.
And it's time to go after the harvest. Jesus is coming soon. We need to make every second count for God.
Very soon. I love what you do. I feel like we're just getting to know each other, Daniel. And I love the way you get into it. You just quietly get the job done. And I'm a fan of you.
Well, thank you.
I'm a real fan of the way you go about things. And just to share on your podcast, pretty nice. And I thank you for that opportunity.
Well, thank you. All right, let's finish up by, if someone wants to find out more about your ministry or even support one of your crusades, what's your website?
Good.
How can people find you?
Just www.timhall.com.
Search for Tim Hall, Evangelist Tim Hall.
Just Google Tim Hall Ministries, you'll find it.
Yeah, and you've got some great resources on there. I know you have some great books
I've just written another book.
Okay.
I've written 4 books. I've written one on the first 40 years. Giant Killers is probably the one that sold the most. Mm-hmm. Armed and Dangerous, a whole opening up of Ephesians. And I did a kids book, which is a crazy kids book, which is pretty funny. And it's all alliteration with my own cartoons, and it was really for my own grandkids, but it's gone everywhere. And I've just written one on the book of Daniel.
I need to read that. Daniel's always been one of my favorite Bible characters.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I've done it. Everything. All the illustrations are done with AI.
Wow.
And I really believe that somebody said, "What does your eschatology do to your missiology?" And for me, my eschatology tells me Jesus is so close, and that drives my missiology to run like I've never run.
Amen.
And that book is geared to giving people something that'll answer the questions that people ask. So I'll send you some.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being on the Evangelism Podcast.
Absolute pleasure. I hope it was okay. God bless you, everybody.
Are you called by God to be an evangelist? Do you want to lead millions of people to Jesus? Do you desire to be trained in the practical side of building a ministry? Then check out the Daniel King School of Evangelism. Learn how to be an effective evangelist from Dr. Daniel King's 20-plus years of experience. Daniel King has done crusades all over the world in over 70 nations and has seen over 2 million people give their lives to Jesus. But it wasn't easy. There was no crusade school, so Daniel traveled the world, learning from and observing top evangelists, noticing how they successfully won souls for Christ. Now, he wants to share decades of knowledge and experience with you. Topics of the Daniel King School of Evangelism include: what is an evangelist? How to be a master soul winner? How to give an altar call? How to organize a crusade? How to raise money for your ministry? And much more. If you want to be an evangelist but don't know where to start, the Daniel King School of Evangelism is for you. Enroll today in the School of Evangelism by going to danielkingministries.com/evangelism.
Thanks so much for listening today. I am excited about telling people about Jesus, and I want to invite you to be a part of helping us to rescue people from hell and take them with us to heaven. There's 2 things you can do to help. First of all, can you go find the Evangelism Podcast on Apple iTunes and leave us a positive review? By giving a review, you will help other people find these valuable resources about sharing our faith. And second, would you become a financial partner with King Ministries? Every single dollar that people give us enables us to lead at least one person to Jesus. And so that means for only $1, you can help start a party in heaven. And so today I want to invite you to become a monthly partner. You can start out for just $1, but if God puts it on your heart to do more, of course you can do more. But please go to kingministries.com and become a monthly partner with us today to help us to lead more people to Jesus. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
For more information about how to share your faith or to financially support our worldwide evangelistic outreaches, visit kingministries.com. Again, that's kingministries.com.